I was essentially raped on camera.
That shouldn't be on YouTube.
No, it should not. I really thought he was Edward Scissorhands, somebody who looked quite scary, but was actually a very deep, sensitive artist. He had a lot of books on cults and a lot of books on mind control and manipulation. The thing that scared me the most is when I saw the mask go on. He was just this darkness, these dark eyes, and then he just went.
Shit. You're still being followed by cars.
So I thought I could die. I really thought that he might kill me.
We're going to talk about Hollywood.
Human beings are the product, and that's when it gets really gross. And children are the product. Once I was 14, it wasn't like they were waiting for me to turn 18. I was fair game at that point. There was a man that wouldn't leave my hotel room who tried to offer me money to have sex with him. I was making out with a 23-year-old when I was 14. My first sex scene was with.
Is there an alternate reality where you're not a famous actress, you're just Evan Wood, and you're happier?
Yeah.
Evan Rachel Wood is about to blow the lid off the levels of narcissism and abuse in Hollywood. If you appreciate this content, please do subscribe. Only half of people who watch do, and it helps a lot.
He has multiple swastika tattoos. Didn't have any when we started dating, and then they slowly started trickling in.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Can we start? Because I haven't said. Is that can that be in there? I want you to start with he has multiple swastika.
Absolutely.
So, okay, good. Conclude that, please. We're talking about Marilyn Manson. I'm here with Evan Rachel Wood, the actress, the brilliant actress. And before I get into the whole story, I mean, people know Marilyn Manson. You dated him. We're going to talk about narcissism. You're still being followed by cars. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? How are they following you?
I hired full-time security, because I didn't want to take any chances. And part of their job was to see if I was being trailed in cars. And every now and then they would say, yeah, we have a tail. And they would have to do maneuvers to lose these cars. And it often happened when I played a show, when I sang somewhere, when it was public knowledge where I was going to be, we almost always had a tail. Yeah.
And who would that have been?
I don't know.
Like someone he may have hired.
So that's part of the problem, right? Like you can sit there and go, well, gee, I wonder who's tailing me, and you know who it is, but good luck proving it.
Yeah.
And then, you get all these phishing attempts in your email with all these links trying to get you to click on them so that spyware can be downloaded on your computer. And I would get phone calls over and over and over and over again, these like roll calls from all these different numbers. So there's all these, there were also some people, while we were shooting the documentary, the director, Amy Berg, her Amazon got hacked and all of these films were purchased with threatening titles, like Burn the Witch or like I'm going to kill you or like, right?
Whoa.
All these subliminal messages, right? It's not a direct threat, but you know what it is. One girl had somebody hook into the Bluetooth in her house and blast heavy metal music. These messages of like, we see you and we know where you are and we're here. But you can't say it's him and you can't, it can't be traced directly back, but it's quite obvious like what's going on. So there were a lot of things like that, a lot of intimidation.
So how do you live with what must be a constant paranoia and a paranoia that's validated because it's actually happening? Sure.
I've made peace with it, but there was a reason why I had such terrible PTSD for so long, especially right after I had gotten out of the situation. I got diagnosed with complex PTSD, and partners of mine that I had after the relationship would talk about it. It was like, dude, you would lock the doors multiple times. You were looking under the beds. You were looking in the closets. Like one little noise would set you off. Like I would have safe people that I would call to come and hold my hand till I fell asleep because I'd just be so terrified to even close my eyes, My home in Los Angeles, like, became a fortress almost. I had like a vault door on my bedroom door, like the steel door.
Whoa.
That locked. I had like a safe room. I had screens that you couldn't cut through and like riot-proof glass. I was so terrified of anybody
Because you're also a famous person.
Yeah.
That in itself
is scary. Yeah. But it's even scarier when not only, have you angered the beast who has threatened to kill you multiple times or to sick his army of fans, which I call a cult, on you.
Are they going to come after us?
Yes.
In the comments.
Oh, yes.
I look forward to it.
Yes, very much so.
Man, okay. So tell us the story, I suppose. Tell us the story of how, you were very young and you met Marilyn Manson.
I was 18.
That is young because he was much older.
He was about 37, I think.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years older than me. And he was married.
Oh.
To Dita Von Teese at the time.
Okay. She can't be happy about.
Oh, no.
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 Has she ever spoken about his behavior?
So when they first separated, she did speak about it. She said he had a very violent temper and that he would throw things at her in a cocaine rage and that he would break the windows and that she was dating Mommy Dearest is how she described it.
Right. What's that a reference to, Mommy Dearest?
It's a Betty Davis film, I think. It's
okay.
a very, and she plays quite an unhinged,
I see.
I'd say borderline personality type of character. So she did absolutely speak about it. I don't think she spoke about any physical abuse or sexual abuse. I don't know if that was a part of her story, but she certainly experienced types of abuse in her words. She also, given her work, was a model and a burlesque dancer, and she, and again, in her words, she's a professional naked lady. So I'm not sure if being physically abusive with her was an option, as her body was shown a lot and marks would appear, and it probably wouldn't have been as easy. Is my guess.
A weird thing happened with Marilyn Manson in particular, which is that his image and his brand was initially horrifying, and everybody was like, there was that time, I guess in the 90s, where everyone was like, oh, Mortal Kombat and Ozzy Osbourne and Marilyn Manson, boo, it's making violence happen and so on.
Yeah.
And then everybody started saying, the thing about that guy, he's actually incredibly sensible and nice and sweet. There was like almost, it just happened overnight. And like Family Guy had a thing of him being like really sensible. And it's like, oh, that's the funny thing about him. He's actually, and so do you think that was deliberate? What version of him was Who Met You?
I had heard growing up that, oh, that's all an act. And he's actually really smart and really well-spoken. Yeah. And that is true. He is very smart and very well-spoken. But funny enough, he always talked about how he hated Bowling for Columbine, and he hated that people had gotten that impression of him. I don't think he wants to be looked at as a nice, sensible guy.
Oh.
And so he really had an issue with that.
Yeah.
But that is when I think people started, seeing him as a more sensible, sensitive kind of person.
Was he charming?
Very.
What would he do to woo you?
He initially came across very wounded, and quiet and misunderstood. And I always say, I really thought he was Edward Scissorhands, like somebody who looked quite scary, but everybody just kind of had the wrong idea about, and was actually a very deep, sensitive artist who really had something to say and was very poetic. And I liked the fact that he challenged the norm, and he challenged, religious ideas and certain things that felt oppressive, and it was rock and roll. It's very heightened and sexualized and in your face, and so I really respected that because it felt like it had a purpose behind it, especially when you heard him speak. But I didn't think that came home. Is the impression I got of him. And he really leaned into how Columbine had ruined his life. And he really sold this like wounded artist of like, I was the scapegoat. I get blamed for everything because of the way that I look and my persona. And this has ruined my life, and I don't even want to make music anymore. And I just want to stay in my house and paint and be alone. And I really don't have many friends, and you're really special, and so I'm letting you in. And so you feel kind of good
This is quite a common ploy, isn't it, to find people who want to help people. And Columbine, just because it's a mostly British audience, this was a shooting and he was blamed.
He was, yeah. They wore black clothes and trench coat. It was really one of the first just major school shootings when they were still rare. And apparently they looked through the shooter's journals and they had mentioned that they liked or listened to Marilyn Manson, but then I think later that was debunked and it turns out they weren't even fans of him, but the media ran with it. And in his defense, it was completely unfair. And he got death threats and bomb threats and his concerts were protested and it really did damage his career in a major way. But I do think he uses that now as sort of in the same way that was it Bundy that pretended to be injured to like lure women in the car?
I see.
It kind of feels like that.
Yeah. Okay. And so when did you start to realize, like, what were the first little signs of narcissistic manipulation?
Probably in how he was not being completely honest with me about his marriage. I was under the impression that they were separating and then maybe she was moving out and maybe she was the abusive one. And, he kept, again, playing it up like he was the victim in this marriage. And that, he really wanted to leave, but he was afraid that she was going to retaliate and she was going to take his cats and she was going to, hurt him. And, and so it was very like this delicate thing. But then it became clear that, wait, are you telling me the truth or are you manipulating me and playing both of us so that you can get what you want from me and still seem like a good guy, And I think I really tried to ignore all of those red flags in the beginning because I really wanted to believe that he was telling the truth and being a good guy. But in retrospect, I don't think he was being completely honest with me, clearly, or her.
And then it's a really hard question, this, because there's so much about how he treated you. And I don't even know where to start.
I know. It's there's a lot. And there's so much that's well documented and public, actually. It would take a long time to skim through it all.
The music video, you assert that he raped you. That's right, and it's still on YouTube.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be on YouTube.
No, it should not.
Have you tried to get that taken down?
I have not actively tried, but I would like to. I would like to do that one day, to actually do something to try to get it taken down.
I bet we could help with that.
That would be lovely. There was a petition that people put together that a lot of people signed to take it down. In Phoenix Rising, when I described the music video, I said I was essentially raped on camera. And the reason why I used that language is because it wasn't for many, many years later that I looked back and realized that what had happened falls under the category of rape. I was given alcohol and drugs. My boyfriend was the director, who was also in the scene with me. I was the youngest person on that set.
How old?
I was 19.
And what drugs?
So I was given absinthe.
That's like that mad, they put it in alcohol and stuff.
It's had a very, very high alcohol content.
That's a strange thing to give someone before doing a scene with them. Yeah.
It was also just kind of the norm. He gave me absinthe the first time I came to his house when I was 18, It was sort of our ritual. We would always drink absinthe together.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. And I wasn't a big drinker or anything. And absinthe is interesting because it doesn't really affect you the same way that tequila or hard alcohol does. It's much more kind of like a dream space.
Right. Well, we know why he was using that then.
Yeah. I also will say I did not feel right. So I can't tell you for sure if there was anything else in it.
Okay.
But I felt like I was in a dream. And this is how I always describe it to people. I didn't feel like what was happening was real. But I also wasn't falling over drunk. I wasn't almost passed out. And this is why I knew that this was not going to be a very difficult thing to ever go to court or like be proved in that way, because unless you're falling over drunk and about to pass out, or you're kicking and screaming and yelling no, that's a hard sell in court. In a conversation like this, when I described you what happened, when I say I was intimidated and coerced and none of this was spoken about beforehand, he had been yelling at the entire crew before I even got on set. We were so far behind. This is my job. This is my place of business. This is before Me Too movement. You don't want to cause waves. You don't want to be labeled difficult. You don't want to go against your director, who's also your partner, who's also just yelled at everybody. There's no nudity clause. I've not signed anything that says I'm going to be naked on set. And normally before any clothes come off, there's an agreement that is signed. And it says, this is exactly what we're going to shoot. We're going to destroy the footage afterwards. It's going to be a closed set. Like, there are SAG guidelines for this. None of that was there in place because it was not part of the plan. I did not think any of my clothes were coming off this day. And so once he started just taking my clothes off when the cameras were rolling, I'm like frozen because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop it. And then once he starts penetrating me, I'm frozen, and I've seen the footage, and, his hands are around my neck. His face is pressed into my face. Even if I wanted to say no, I couldn't say no, And so I was severely, severely taken advantage of. But because I wasn't kicking and screaming and saying no, the district attorney's going to say, how do we prove that this was non-consensual? How do we prove that this was premeditated and that he knew that this wasn't consensual, And that's when I would say that, well, you look at the pattern of behavior, right? And he has a long list of this pattern of behavior. This wasn't a one-off. And I have spoken to other girls that have been on his music video sets where similar things have happened to. So I have a hard time believing that it wasn't premeditated. And I also spoke to somebody else who was on the set that day that said they heard him asking for underwear that could easily be removed so that he could penetrate me. So
asking for underwear to give you to wear in the scene.
That could be easily removed, yeah. This is all without my knowledge. So
I'm so sorry that happened to you, Evan.
Yeah, it was horrible. And I remember crying. I remember sitting on that bed crying in front of the crew because the crew walked off. They were so disturbed by what they were seeing that they walked off the set. And I was just left there crying,
It's a horrible thing for a 19-year-old to have to go, for anyone to have to go through.
It was horrible, yeah.
I'm going to talk to YouTube. I got YouTube people. I'm going to talk to them and get that taken. I mean, that's something, right?
It's horrible, yeah.
Get it taken down.
Yes. And not only was it non-consensual, but, if there's any kind of real penetration in those videos, you can't show it. You can't. It's not. It goes against the guidelines. So yes, it needs to be taken down.
Wow.
It needs to be taken down.
You got the impression that he'd studied how to manipulate people. Mm-hmm. What gives you that impression?
If you take a wander in his library, he had a lot of banned books, and he had a lot of books on cults and a lot of books on mind control and manipulation. And he also studied like Scientology and things like that as well. It's like, and cults have different names and different styles, but ultimately it's the same. They're the same tactics, right? And so I think he was very, very well versed in these tactics. And he also always made it very clear that he would retaliate against anybody that went against him, or in his words, betrayed him in any way. And a betrayal would be to expose him, And so I think he was also very well versed on what to do if that ever happened, and how he would retaliate.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people might think of, I think some types of narcissists don't realize they're narcissists. I think everyone watching has a friend who is just always on about themselves. But if you ever said to them, "You're a bit of a narcissist," they'd be horrified.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, exactly. But if he's got these mind manipulation books and things, it implies that, maybe, some people have spoken about a psychopathic narcissist, for example. Does that sound right for him?
I think so. Yeah. And I think there was a time when I wanted to believe that maybe there were still good times and that we had just had a few bad times, or that maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But the more I started to read the stories that were popping up online, the more people that contacted me and told me their stories, there was just no way to think otherwise. And really the thing that scared me the most is when I saw the mask go on. That's when I really knew. He was about to go do an interview. I think it was for biography. And he was just on a tirade, one of his sort of, I called them the narcissistic rants of just berating everybody. Whenever he had to get ready for something, for some sort of event or interview, when he had to put his persona makeup and everything on, it was guaranteed that it was going to be a bad night for everybody. So I ended up locking myself in the bathroom anytime that ever happened. And I locked myself in the bathroom so much that I decorated it.
Wow. Well, while you were locked in?
Well, just because I knew I would spend so much time in there.
Jesus, man.
So I strung lights and I had music in there, and and he would be so just seeing red that sometimes he would barely even notice that I wasn't there, And so if you were out of sight, it was like a dinosaur. If you don't move, you can't see us if we don't move. That's how it would feel. And so I locked myself in the bathroom. And he was going off, and he would wreck things, and he would wreck the house, and he would yell at people. And then I came out like right before he was about to go on, and he was just this darkness, these dark eyes. And then he just went and just like went out, and you just saw it. You just saw like him slip into the Marilyn Manson persona. And then he went out, and he was doing that calm, well-spoken, just, Marilyn Manson thing. And I was like, and that's when I realized, that's when you go back and you think about every interview that he's done in that persona, and you think, oh my God, like what was going on behind the scenes? Was that ever real? Because I just saw you put that face on, and I know that's not you. And I know that face only goes on when the cameras are rolling or when you're manipulating somebody. So it just it blew my mind. And I didn't know what to call that until I was learning about narcissism and psychopathy and stuff. And they talk about the mask, and when you see the mask slip. And I was like, that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like the mask went on.
So they can do that?
Yeah.
I suppose actors can do that. Could you do that if you just had or would you have to say, guys, we're filming later? Because just as an actress.
Right. So I do make this distinction with people sometimes, because I think some people think acting is lying. And for me, it's very different, because acting is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and making it real. And so, I don't know, if you're doing it deeply and right, you don't feel like you're lying. You feel like you're being incredibly honest. You're just, you're using somebody else's words and somebody else's story, right?
Mm.
But it's not lying. If you yourself are telling an untruth that is an untruth, that's very different, and it feels very different in your body. And when you're manipulating, when you're putting on a persona, the only time you would lie while you're acting is if you're playing a liar. You know what I mean? It's like there is a distinction, at least, in my mind. And so I always tell people I'm a great actor. I'm a terrible liar.
I see.
Terrible liar.
Do you get guilt? Do you go red-faced?
I will apologize to police officers that pull me over before I even know what they're pulling me over for, or even if I haven't done anything wrong. Yeah,
this is scary. I'm always, if I'm driving here, I'm like hands on the wheel. Like if I ever got pulled over, like my hands are here. I'm not doing anything.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
Scary here.
It is scary.
They all got. Are they all armed? The ones that pull you over?
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're all armed.
Yeah. Well, just keep the hands on the wheel, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so he put on this mask.
Yeah.
And was that when he was in front of like audiences and things, or did he do it with like if family members popped over or friends popped over?
Certainly around famous people, when people would be invited to the house and they had any kind of status. And that's really the only way you're getting invited in that house, is if it's for status or servitude. You're either serving him in some way and he's going to get something from you. You're either going to work for him, or, he's going to get something sexually from you, or you're famous and he's going to get status by being in your orbit, right? But he doesn't really have real friends outside of that. There's no, at least in my experience, nobody in his orbit that is like a real friend unless he's getting something from them.
I see.
And that's when the mask is up. But then it goes down pretty quickly if you're working for him. Like if you're an assistant or something, he'll treat you pretty badly pretty quickly.
That's how you can tell like who a person is, how they treat people who are status below them.
Oh man.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Hollywood in a bit.
It's pretty deplorable, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, so when did he start getting...
I think aside from the music video, which was very confusing, you know, like now I would say like that's pretty, you know, physically abusive because it was so, I just don't know who does that. And what upsets me sometimes is the people that say, what did she expect? He's Marilyn Manson. Did you think he was going to be nice, or did you think it wasn't going to be rough, or it wasn't going to be, you weren't going to get taken advantage of? You described him as a wolf in wolf's clothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, he's been very open about who he is and what he does, but I was so young that I really was not well versed in his backstory or his body of work. I really wasn't. Yeah. So I didn't know. I think of 18-year-olds I know in my life today, and like, my God. I see 18-year-olds now and it breaks my heart. Yeah. Because I felt so much older then. You know, you always feel so much older than you actually are. And now I look at an 18-year-old and I'm going, and I'm 38. And thinking about dating an 18-year-old is so gross to me and would feel so wrong. So that's why I like to reframe it for people when they say, what did I expect? And I go, why doesn't anybody ever say, what did he expect? Well, yeah. You brought a 19-year-old girl onto a set, gave her absinthe, took off all her clothes and penetrated her in front of a room of people and while cameras were rolling, and you expected her to feel in power and in control of the situation. You expected her not to come forward years later and say that she felt taken advantage of. I'm sorry. What did he expect? Well, this was pre-Me Too, though, and those kinds of guys. It was. Think about the stuff like, I mean, even like the Rolling Stones, those guys, Iggy Pop, they were singing about and talking about and apparently, allegedly. Absolutely. 13? Yeah. The baby groupies. It's been a part of rock and roll culture. When you think of how young 18 is to us, I think of I've got a half sister who's 19. She's a kid. They're kids, yeah. She's a kid. You're a kid. And like 13? So like the stuff that's been allowed to go on in these places, unbelievable. It's a cult. Yeah. It's a cult. And so, and was he, aside from that horrible incident, was he also physically just like, you know, did he take things out on you? Yes. So, honestly, the emotional abuse was the worst, and that was consistent. That was every day. That is, to me, the most damaging and the hardest. Probably the worst. The worst he got physically. Definitely one time I had to duck because he swung a really heavy cane right by my head, and I ducked, and it hit the door frame right next to me and like broke in half. Whoa. That was really scary. He would throw things at me a lot, you know, especially if I tried to sleep. He would just start chucking things at me to keep me awake. But that's horrible. Torture. Yeah. The worst is when I tried to leave multiple times and always came back, which is quite common. Actually, they say it takes, on average, 7 times for a domestic violence victim to leave. 7 attempts, yeah. And that's the average, meaning some people it's 10, 15 times. So they leave, and then what brings them back? It can be a lot of different things. For me, once the abuse happened, I didn't really know how to function outside of the abuse anymore. I felt broken and damaged. I felt like this was as good as I was going to get. He really didn't let me go, you know, or there's always like promises that things are going to be better too, right? Like, oh, they're getting better. And you think about when you first met them and you're always trying to get back there and you think maybe it's going to be different this time and maybe he's changed. And, you know, so you give them multiple chances and they cry and they send you flowers. And, you know, in this instance, he was threatening to kill himself, you know, and that's how he got me to come over, because I was worried that he was going to die. And when I got there, you know, he had this whole setup in his room, and he had a prayer kneeler, and he had this thing called a violent wand, which sends, you know, electrical currents up through this wand that shocks your skin. And he had rope, and I walked in, and my heart just sank because I knew what was about to happen. And he really framed it as, you know, I'll let you leave, but I have to know I can trust you. And the only way I'm going to know if I can trust you is if you're willing to die for me, if I know you're willing to die for me. So I'm going to tie you up, and you're not going to know if I'm going to kill you or not. But I have to know that you're willing, and then I'll let you go. So I felt like I was bartering for my freedom. And I felt like it was better to go through with this than to fight. And this is why, you know, this is like the cult thing, right? You know, this is like, how do these things happen? You know, and it's like, well, I didn't think there was an alternative. I really didn't think there was an alternative. And
so he tied you up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how, like with your arms and?
My hands in front of me and my feet behind me. And I was completely naked. And he was behind me the whole time. And then there was a screen in front of me, and he put like violent images on the screen. One in particular was a girl slitting her wrists in a bathtub. And when that happened, he came up behind me and he held my head, you know, and made me look at the screen. And he said, "This is what love does to people." Like really, really, really twisted things. And he had a whip that was actually a relic from the Holocaust, and it had a swastika on it in the leather. And he whipped me with the whip that was used by Nazis in the Holocaust. I'm Jewish, by the way. And then he said that he was going to shock the welts, and especially the ones that looked the most red, because he wanted it to like hurt the most. So then he shocked the whip marks, and then it hurt so bad that I jerked so hard that I broke the kneeler in half, and that's how I got free.
Shit. Were you thinking, shit, why? What's going through your mind in that moment of like, I shouldn't have let myself get tied? Because did you trust that he would just let you, or what's going on?
I thought I could die. I really thought that he might kill me. And I just remember like leaving my body and thinking that this was the lowest point of my entire life. I just remembered, I just couldn't believe that this is where my life had led me. And I remember feeling the like trauma just seep into my brain and my body, and like, I just left.
I asked this, it's hard to ask this question because it sounds like, you know, there's no blaming at all. I just want people to understand what happens, because what made you not just go, when he said, I need to tie you up and then I'll let you leave, what stopped you from going, no, I'm just going to leave? I
wanted him to leave me alone.
Right. And he promised, let me do this. I will leave you alone after this.
And the torment in our relationship and the emotional abuse and the constant calling and the threats against my family and the threats against my friends. And, you know, this is what had happened leading up to this. I wanted it all to stop. I just wanted him to let me go. That's all I wanted.
Where were your parents, family? Were they concerned at the time?
Very, yeah, they were very, very concerned. But I, you know, in the beginning, he was very nice to them and didn't have any issue with them. But, as the relationship goes on, suddenly, your friends aren't good enough for you. Your family's trying to control you. They don't approve of this relationship. So we need to get rid of all the people that aren't supportive of us, And so after a while, they make it not worth it seeing your friends and family because of the abuse that you're going to experience after the fact, right? Like I'd be kept up if I got an email, if my dad sent an email concerned about me and my relationship, I'd be kept up for 2 days, him berating me about it. I wouldn't be allowed to sleep. And he got access to my emails, he got access to my phone. He was monitoring me and reading messages. So I also couldn't really ask for help because he would know about it,
This is really culty. It's isolating you
absolutely.
from your...
He would have his assistants follow me sometimes and take pictures of what I was doing and send it to him so that he knew that I was doing what he had asked me to do.
Man.
Yeah. So this is what's also called coercive control. And this is also what keeps people in these abusive situations as well. People have blackmail on you. People are controlling your finances, your green card status. They've threatened you. It's multiple crimes sort of being committed against you at once that affect your civil liberties. And that's how coercive control is done. It's like how to restrain somebody without using restraints. You do it with a pattern of abuse and control and coercion, and that's what he was doing.
Just like with the cult Nixium, he put his initials on you, did he?
Yes.
How did he? What did he write them or tattoo?
Well, so again, it was like he was an incredibly jealous person. Obviously, a lot of this personality type. So if somebody even like talked to me, or I talked to another man or something, it was bad. And I think he wanted a mark on me that showed some kind of ownership. And I think he wanted me to prove to him that I belonged to him. And he had talked about scarification is what it's called. And he had talked about, like if you really love him, these are certain things that you do. And he carved an E into his chest. And then, and I carved the M, and like right next to, my privates essentially, so that to ward off others, to show that I belonged to him. It was like a brand.
It's exactly what they did. Keith Raniere and Nixium.
Yeah. And that was done through coercion. He didn't carve it on me, but it was like intimidation and coercion to get you to do this again, to appease, right? Like there's no consent in a domestic violence relationship. You're being coerced and intimidated most of the time, and you're appeasing them, and you're just doing whatever you can to limit the amount of damage. And so after a while, I would say and do whatever he wanted. I took on a new persona around him just to make him happy, but inside you're not you. You don't. It's like the real you kind of goes into hiding, and you have to put this other one out there to survive.
And he would lock you in rooms, deprive you of food.
Yeah. He didn't want me to eat unless he was eating.
What?
He would get upset. Yeah. And he was very, very strange about food. Like sometimes he would order food and make you plate it just so he could throw it against the wall, like just as a power play. And sometimes, he wouldn't eat food unless I plated it a certain way. He would say that it didn't taste the same, and then I would have to serve it to him like on a tray. And so sometimes like if he wasn't eating, I was not allowed to eat. And obviously he was doing a lot of drugs and staying up for days. And so if he wasn't eating, I wasn't eating for days. Shit. He would get upset.
It's just, do you think that, we talked as well about earlier about things that happen in Hollywood, so things that happen in the music industry with young children. I mean, you were in Hollywood from what, you were 13, or you 14 when you did 13?
I was 14 when I did 13. I started working in TV when I was 4.
I see. Okay. So you were around that. Were people strange with you? I've often heard various people. I think Britney Spears, for example, I think she's one of that said, when you're that age, who was it they counted down till she was 16? That was someone.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Anne Hathaway? No.
I think, you know what, honestly, it's all of them. I mean, they do it to all of them. They did it to the Olsen twins. They did it to Hilary Duff. They did it to Anne Hathaway. Yeah.
Did you feel any of that?
Yeah. But mine was slightly different because I wasn't on Disney Channel or Nickelodeon.
Oh, that was that was bad there, wasn't it, Nickelodeon?
But yes. Yeah. And so I definitely felt like they had it worse in some ways. And when you have to have that like good girl persona, it's almost like there's more like foamy at the mouth because it's this like forbidden thing, and it's really gross, the whole thing. Mine was weird because I was slightly more under the radar leading up to 13, and then when I did 13, it was such an adult film. It was the subject matter, the things that we were doing. There was not a whole lot left of mystery there. And so I just got immediately put into this like adult category once I was 14. It wasn't like they were waiting for me to turn 18. It was almost like I already was, even though I wasn't.
Okay.
And so it felt like I was fair game at that point. And I did feel that. I did feel that from Hollywood and from people, the way they treated me and looked at me and the things the kind of photo shoots they wanted me to do and just certain things. I was like, it was very 0 to 100,
Did you have men coming on to you or whatever?
Yeah, but I don't think I realized that that's what was happening. I was so kind of innocent to it, I'm also like a little like spectrum-y, and I don't always like pick up on like certain social cues. It runs in my family. And so I think sometimes I miss certain things. And I think that also lent to, me probably getting into some not so great situations.
What kind of thing? What kind of not so good situations?
There were definitely some things, certain people, like there was an incident, there was a man that wouldn't leave my hotel room who tried to offer me money to have sex with him.
Someone who works in Hollywood.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
How old
well,
were
he
you
works
then?
for somebody in Hollywood. Yeah. I was maybe, I want to say 20 maybe.
Okay.
And yeah, that was interesting. I had to call security to get them to leave my room. They wouldn't leave.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But I was really, it felt like, I hate using the word naive because innocent feels more accurate, but that person, like, it was like an Epstein thing. He like asked for a massage and I was like, sure, like
Oh, wow.
thinking it's like this completely innocent thing. Right. So, things like that, where in retrospect, you're like, oh my God, like what a trap, you know?
You were so young.
Yeah.
So I guess we're talking about narcissism in particular, and then people think of narcissism and Hollywood as synonymous. I mean, that is the place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people who want to act, we all have a bit of, whatever in us. And is that something you experienced as well in Hollywood?
Narcissism? Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, all the time. It's this, there's like a bloodlust there. It's very, God, there's so much power and so much manipulation and so much money to be made. And human beings are the product. And that's when it gets really gross, and children are the product. There's child labor laws everywhere else except in Hollywood. There's age of consent in other places. Not really when you're on screen in Hollywood, like I was making out with a 23-year-old when I was 14 in the film 13. My first sex scene was with Edward Norton when I was 16 years old, And so it's like, well, as long as it's on camera, I guess it's fine, like in any other setting that would be illegal or inappropriate, So
how was Edward Norton about that?
I got very lucky in that he was respectful, but
Do you hear stories about actors who are not?
Yes. And here's the thing, like even if you're with the most respectful adult and everything is fine, you probably still shouldn't be doing it, because it it did send messages to me as a 16-year-old girl, you know, about what was okay and what wasn't. And developmentally, I don't think these are the situations I should have been in, you know?
It's such a strange thing because those are the series I watched when I was a kid. It was like 28-year-olds playing 18-year-olds. So I don't know why. I mean, even on like that To Catch a Predator thing, you ever watch that, Chris Hansen?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I'm interviewing him as well in New York soon.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, they were older. The ones who were, what would you call them? The decoys,
yeah.
They were like 21 or something, and they looked 14 or something. It doesn't feel that necessary to have an actual 14-year-old, especially in a role like that.
Right.
Feels like a decision someone's made.
It is, and I think it's hard with the film 13 because I'm very, very proud of the work I did in that. I really am, and I think it's a great film. But I also think it really damaged me in a lot of ways. And so you're almost like a sacrificial lamb. And it's why I get very protective of young actors and why I'm very sort of outspoken about it. And a lot of people get mad at me for doing that, you know, and tell me to lighten up. And it's like, I do have firsthand experience with this, you know, and if you just look at what happens to so many child actors, a lot of them are dead, you know. I mean, that is saying something. That's saying a lot about the industry and about the treatment of these kids.
I'm trying to think, who are some who have, River Phoenix comes to mind.
River Phoenix, yeah.
I think Corey Feldman's not doing well.
Yeah, we just lost Devay Chase, and I knew her, and and that was pretty heartbreaking. You know, Michelle Trachtenberg just passed away as well. Those were people I grew up with and knew.
And Amy Winehouse wasn't that young as a singer, was she? I'm just thinking about 27. I mean, it just screws you up. Even just fame on its own.
A lot of suicides and overdoses, yeah. And if they don't die, they get quite close, yeah.
Do you think that's solely about they've been abused as children?
They've been exploited.
Yeah, even if it wasn't sexual, do you think sometimes there's... And also, where do you go from there? You know, you're supposed to have an arc where you get to 18 and you don't know what you're doing, you have no life, and then you work really hard and you get up to, but you're like 15, you know, You
haven't had a childhood and you haven't been socialized properly either, and you haven't been given the right life skills. You've been told to work, to never say no. You've been rewarded for having no boundaries, and your childhood's been taken away, and you've been thrown into an adult world. And in Hollywood, you know, that's also like party time.
I wonder if there's something about American culture as well, because I think of the British young stars, the Harry Potter guys.
Yeah.
I think Christian Bale might have been a child actor as well. Quite a lot of those guys, they seem a little bit more okay. And then I see sometimes like documentaries or movies, you see like the way that American parents, I don't think this was the case with you, but they put forward their kids at like 3 years old.
Yeah.
There was a Sacha Baron Cohen one. Did you see that? And he was pretending to be a film casting director, and he was telling them like the kid might have to do this horrible thing and that horrible thing, and the moms are like, yep. What is that?
There's a lot of parents like that. There's money. Money makes people crazy. You know, they're either living vicariously through their kids because it's a dream that they had, or they're making money off of it. Like, you only get a percentage of your earnings as a child. And that's only after the Coogan law was passed. Before, you know, you really didn't have control over any of it. Well, now you get a percentage and the rest is up for grabs, you know.
This was the Macaulay Culkin thing. Did he sue his parents?
I'm not sure. I think so. And a lot of kids get emancipated. They emancipate themselves from their parents. And then they're legal adults when they're 15, 16, you know.
How have your parents been?
You know, we've had a complicated relationship at times, but we're in a good place now. After a lot of really hard conversations, I think there are still some things that are hard for them to really take a look at and examine. But ultimately, I know that they were doing what they thought was right in the moment. And I also know it's really hard when you have a child that seemingly has a gift. How far do you go with that? How much do you push them? You know, if you say no, are you going to be hurting them or hurting their career or their opportunities? And this is also why Hollywood is dangerous, because I think my mom specifically, because she was the one that was with me most of the time, really tried to do things right and really tried to be there and protect me, and still couldn't do it, because you just don't know what you're getting into until you're in it. And they will corner you and they will threaten you and they will make it seem like if you don't do this, you're really going to hurt her, you know? And then as a parent, you go, well, I don't want to hurt my child. So maybe we should just do this. And, you know, maybe it's not that bad. And then after a while, you know, the other thing too is like, I know I always seemed like it was something that I really wanted to do and that I was okay with at the time. And so parents can go, well, they say they're fine, so I guess everything's fine. But you have to take into account that kids are going to people please, and they're not going to want to disappoint you. And they're probably going to say they're okay even when they're not. And I think that's something that people forget about in the industry as well.
What is the one point where you wish your parents had maybe pushed back on something?
There were a lot of photo shoots and things I was really uncomfortable with. And I didn't always feel like they had my back on those. You know, like I didn't want to wear dresses. I didn't want to show my legs. I didn't want to get in a pool in wet clothes. There were things as a teenager, I was like, this is not me. I was a tomboy. I wore ripped jeans and Converse. I never wanted to be a model. The whole thing made me extremely uncomfortable. And it didn't always feel like, you know, it felt like, I know you don't want to do this, but we're going to get in trouble if you don't, you know? And so I would be kind of forced to do things I didn't want to do. I did, again, this is what's very hard about 13, because it's hard to say I regret that because it's given me so much. And a lot of that experience was good. But I also turned it down multiple times before I actually said yes. And I was pressured by the adults around me to take the meeting and to consider this, you know? And so that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, you know? Because no should be a complete sentence, you know? If when you say, no, I'm uncomfortable with this, it should kind of end there. So it's tough.
Did you see that film Blue is the Warmest Color?
Yes.
I mean, that is shocking what those women were made to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I think they did say that they were uncomfortable in some moments. Yeah,
they did. And then the director was annoyed that they'd even said that.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Of course.
It's really difficult when the lines get blurred and it's your work and it's also your body and your dignity and it's intimate, you know?
Do you find stuff like that really hard to watch now because of your experience?
Sometimes. Like I had a very hard time with the film Cuties.
Oh, I heard about
the controversy with that. And those girls were even younger than we were in 13.
That got some really bad PR. That
very much. And
was that French as well?
It was French. And every institution that's there to protect children said this is child pornography. You can't do this. And all of these platforms said, we don't care. We're showing it anyway. And it's like, why? What are we doing? What are we doing? If we can't care about kids and if we can't listen to the institutions that are there, that are put there to protect them, to monitor these things, what are we doing? How can you say that this industry is safe? You know,
it's terrifying. Is there an alternate reality where you're not a famous actress, you're just Evan Wood, and you're happier?
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah. You know, again, like the opportunities that I've had, the places I've gotten to go, the people I've gotten to meet, the lives that I've gotten to touch, those are the things I cherish that I wouldn't trade for the world. That's hard. It would be hard to say I wish my life were different because I wouldn't have all of this and, you know, and live comfortably and be able to give my child a good life. And there's so many things I'm so like genuinely grateful for. But yeah, I mean, the abuse that I've suffered and the loss of anonymity before I was really aware enough to consciously make that decision, that's tough. I don't know if I would have chosen this as an adult. And so it's hard not to think of that other life when you were able to live without prying eyes.
You'd have privacy, you'd walk around.
Privacy, yeah.
I've had. Do you know who Robbie Williams is? He's not famous.
Yes.
Oh right, I don't mean he's not famous. He's not famous in America as much.
My kid's dad is British. So
oh, that's true. Of course, right. Well, that's Jamie Bell,
yes.
who is best known for Billy Elliot.
Yes.
Is that right? But Robbie spoke about that the other day. Well, he came on this show and he spoke about because I've asked him before. I was in Barcelona with him, and we were looking down over this hotel. And I was looking, and I said, "Can you ever go and see that cathedral and all that?" And he was like, "No, no, no. Every city. He's the most traveled person in the world and can't see any of the highlights, except probably in America, maybe, but every other country in the world." And so he then spoke about, the funny thing was, he went around in kind of like, he was wearing some stuff. You couldn't really tell it was him, but you could a little bit. And then no one looked at him, and he actually found himself going like, "Why is no one looking at me?"
Oh,
right?
That's
that kind of binary. He's so honest about
Right.
those things. And I think
Sure.
that's the thing with humanity. It would be beautiful, I guess, for you to not be recognized. But then maybe, do you think there'd be a point where you'd be like, "Hey,
I don't know.
you're just done with it"?
I don't know. Like I've never really been that comfortable with it. I think I've actually held myself back in my career a lot because I never wanted to break through that ceiling where I couldn't move. Like I'm famous, but I can also still fly under the radar, and I really, really like being in that place. I don't know if I would want to go any higher up, which is another reason why, like, coming forward and doing all these things, like, if you know me at all, this whole idea that there's a conspiracy or that you do it for attention or money or all these things, I'm just like, please tell me what my motivation is for doing this.
It's not getting you more jobs in Hollywood, is it?
Absolutely not. No, if anything, I've taken a 3-year hiatus to try to get away from it, people had just stopped talking about him. I was doing really well in my career. I was getting nominated for awards, and I was on this hit show, and like,
Westworld.
yeah.
I loved it. I watched it.
Doing pretty great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great.
I'm
And
proud
you were
of
great.
that.
You're the face of it.
Yeah. I'm very
And in a show with Anthony Hopkins, that's a hell of a thing.
incredible. What an
Yeah.
incredible actor. So things were going pretty great, and all that would do is kind of knock me down in a lot of ways, and overshadow all of that.
Talking about this.
Talking about it, yeah.
you
You
wanted
become
to-
quite controversial, and people are less likely to choose you for that role because you're wrapped up in controversy. There's no motivation. And I have not made 1 cent. If anything, I've had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees and security and all these things, So it's like, you're not making money, you're not getting other roles. I would love to know why people think I would do this, and why I would put my safety and my kids' safety and my family's safety at risk.
Yeah. That's really
Yeah.
hard. So in what has it enabled you to, are you able to have romantic relationships today? Did what happened with Manson affect your marriage, for example?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I still get emotional talking about it because I didn't know that I had PTSD. I went straight from my relationship with Brian back into my relationship with Jamie. And we obviously we had our own issues, but I can only speak for myself. I look back on that time with so much regret, because I was not okay. I was not okay. I was dealing with all of this aftermath of this abuse and having no idea how it was showing up in my life. I had disassociation. I had complex PTSD. It affects every aspect of your life completely. And it made it really hard to go back to normal. And I think that's what we were hoping for when we got back together, and everything had changed, Not everything, but
You and Jamie.
yeah.
Had you been with Jamie before Marilyn?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was with him when Manson started pursuing a romantic relationship with me.
What must Jamie Bell think of Marilyn Manson?
Oh, I'm sure not very highly,
Yeah.
But it was also difficult. And I talked about this in Phoenix Rising. He wasn't always understanding of the abuse.
Jamie.
Yeah, and I did feel victim blamed at times for it, and didn't feel like I could really open up about it completely. And I still feel like that to this day, honestly. There's not a lot of understanding there.
Okay. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to imagine myself if my wife had been through what you've been through.
Yeah.
Because there are so many competing emotions. Trying to understand her and what she's been through, and then also there's probably a bit of rivalry and jealousy about everything.
Yeah, and about the infidelity, we didn't sleep together when Jamie and I were together, but again, I talked about this in Phoenix Rising Brian, I mean, just shoved his tongue down my throat and got on top of me, and I didn't know how to stop it. And I thought I was supposed to want this because he was this big rock star and he could have anybody and he's choosing me.
But Jamie Bell's Billy Elliot.
I know. And I was madly in love with him. So that whole thing was really, really difficult, and it was really hard on both of us. And I think, in my experience, there was a lot of focus on the infidelity and not the grooming or the predatory nature of it, But he was really young as well,
Yeah, that's true. For people watching, it's a hard question, but what's one sign that they can look out for and go, shit, the person I'm with might be a narcissist?
Oh, God. There's so many.
Because that's why you do this. You've said you wanted to put a warning flag on Marilyn Manson in particular, but I guess that's also for all those kinds of Marilyn Mansons out there in the world.
Absolutely. And I think that's what people like you were doing, and Mark, who made the Narcissist Playbook and The Vow, and what we were trying to show in Phoenix Rising, are the exposing the tactics. Because once you see them, you can't unsee it. And once you do see it, they're actually very predictable people.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, very predictable. So once I feel like I saw it, that's how I think I was able to get out, because I knew what he was going to do. It was like a game of chess. I was like, if I do this, he's going to do this. If I do that, he's going to do that. And then I'll be able to get out.
Okay.
But
is there a universal piece of advice you can give to people? Maybe it's different with each one.
Oh man. It's hard because I think anybody is susceptible to it.
Yeah.
And there is this idea that, it's only naive or stupid people that, get wrapped up in a cult or in an abusive relationship, and that would never happen to me, and I would never do that. And I thought the exact same thing. I never thought I would ever stay with someone that hit me. My mom always warned me about the guy that hits you and sends you flowers. And I remember the day I got the flowers and looking at them and going, this is it. These are the flowers. This is what my mom told me about. And I still stayed. It hijacks your brain. There's so much going on emotionally and psychically, psychologically. No one is immune to it. It's actually quite easy to break someone's will. It really is. Like I know we like to think we're these very complicated beings and that we're immune, but we're not. And it also happens, on a mass scale. You see it all the time in politics and in ideology and all these things. It's like it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
We're all being manipulated.
In some form or another, kind of, yeah.
Branding.
Yeah.
I was this morning. It's just going to sound facetious, but I thought I was having acai, but it's like ice cream what they gave me. But that's the branding, right? Because acai is this beautiful fruit from Brazil that's like healthy and nice. And you come to America and you get this acai. It's got Nutella all over it and bananas. Well, bananas are fine, but then it was just ice cream. And I thought, I've been manipulated here. I was very upset about that. I want to talk Mark Vicente's film,
yes,
Narcissist Playbook. I went and watched that, and it was at the BAFTA kind of premiere with Mark and with Richard Grannon. And when you go to these things, you think, I'm going to go and support a friend and watch their documentary. But I was hooked. It's just the most incredible thing. And I don't know where he is with that at the moment, that film. I hope it's going to go out and that everyone can see it. And you're a key feature of that. So can you tell me a little bit about that, about what's going on in that film? Because that story, like not just your part, there's also that whole story. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I mean, I don't want to give away kind of the twist, but yeah, I mean,
give it away.
It's well, it's an incredible documentary for a number of reasons. It really paints a very accurate picture of narcissism and how it works and how it shows up. But I think what makes it really unique is these interviews he has with self-proclaimed narcissists that are letting you, behind the mask and telling you how they operate and what they're thinking and feeling or not feeling. But that's, I think, to my point of how it can happen to anybody, even when the narcissist is telling you they're bad. We go, no, you're not. No, you're not. Because I think we also have this innate thing inside of us that wants to see the good in everybody and wants to believe that we can fix people and that there's hope and I think, in some cases there is, and in some cases there isn't. And some people don't want to be saved.
Well, that, I hope people, we'll put a link to like the website and everything for that down below. There's one scene in that is one of the most compelling scenes I've ever seen, when they confront what a scene, and his wife's getting involved.
The Darvo, deny, reverse victim offender,
Right.
yeah.
And then the wife tries to help, and he's like, no, they're right, actually. It was a weird, it's really weird. The wife's just going like, what?
Yeah.
No, he didn't do any of this. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did. And he continues. It's unbelievable. Of
course.
What a movie that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any, I'm going to put a link to that in the YouTube. Is there any way you want people to go for your work or for what you're doing or anything like that?
That I want people to know about?
That people will click on the links and stuff. Like I could put like a link. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I have
put
any
like a link to
links.
Phoenix Rising or something.
Sure. Phoenix Rising and the Phoenix Act legislation. I would love people to know about that. Because the statute of limitations is a major, major problem in these cases. And I think people are becoming more and more privy to how the system works now, especially in seeing how the Epstein files are being handled, right? Survivors everywhere are going, welcome to the party.
Whoa.
Now you know what we've been up against and what we deal with, there's so much, why didn't they go to the police, or why didn't they do this, or why didn't they do that? And sometimes people do all of those things. Sometimes there's a mountain of evidence and still nothing happens.
They were trafficked underage girls with nothing, that was, what could they do? That Epstein stuff, man, there's more to come out about that, I reckon.
Oh, I mean, I just think that the stone will never hit the bottom of that well, But I think it exposed the system and how it works too, and that the people in power are the ones making the rules, and if the people in power and the ones making the rules are doing the crimes, it's not going to be set up for survivors or people to get justice or come forward and, in a fair way. So that's why I didn't pursue a civil case. I didn't have any faith in the legal system. And when I spoke to the DA's office, first of all, they said that they had a mountain of domestic violence evidence and there's nothing they could do with it because it was outside the statute of limitations. They said, we know he abused you and we believe you. And we're so sorry.
Oh.
And we just sat there in like the saddest silence. And then as far as the rape allegations, they didn't feel confident that they could prove it in court beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That doesn't mean there's not evidence. It just means we had one of the survivors recant. There were a lot of people that meddled in this case that said a lot of untruths. And that's really all you need for a reasonable doubt, right? And so that makes it very difficult. But where was I going with this about the DA? What were we talking about before that?
Just that the laws are set up in a way that there's not really much survivors.
So they asked me, they said, is there any reason why you didn't pursue a civil case? And I said, I didn't have faith in the legal system. And they went, yeah.
Man, that's
like they knew.
Yeah.
You could tell that they wanted to do so much more and they couldn't. They were literally bound by the law. He settled his own lawsuit.
Right.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So normally, it works the other way. But first of all, I didn't want any money from him. I was never going to accept a dime.
Yeah, he'd have almost got a kick out of that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I saw how he had treated the other civil cases, and I just said absolutely not. But yes, he sued me for defamation and for fraud, and a lot of those claims were kicked out of court. And then I was so happy to go to court because I had all the evidence to show that I had nothing to do with any of the thing I was being accused of. And I knew he wasn't going to want to go to court because all of that evidence would come out. So he ended up trying to offer me a settlement and saying, I'll pay you this much money, to settle this case. And I said, no, I don't want any money. I just want the legal fees that I'm owed, that I've had to pay to fight this, which were like $300,000 at that point. You know, I want to be paid back because I didn't do anything. And so I got paid back for my legal fees. And then he tried to get me to sign something that said I couldn't speak about the abuse anymore. And I said, no, you're not taking one more thing from me, and you'll never have my voice. So I didn't agree to that.
Good.
Yeah. And so he agreed to those terms and dropped his own lawsuit against me and didn't pursue it. You know, I really appreciated all the work that law enforcement did. But again, you know, it's those can go either way. It was a blow that there weren't any charges brought against him. But again, yeah, like you said, there's a warning label now, and I hope that the goal was always to make sure that no one else got hurt or less people got hurt, you know. And so if we're keeping victims away from him by exposing him, then that is something to me. And we did change the law, and we expanded the statute of limitations in the state of California. So now it was 1 to 3 years, and now it's 7 years. So had that law existed when we initially tried to do something, it would have protected us. And so a lot of good things have come out of this. You know, I wish it was not under these circumstances, but there has been a lot of good.
Well, I think on behalf of my audience, I thank you for doing that. So it's made a big difference, and it will make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And people, please go and have a look at Narcissist Playbook. I'll link down below, and keep watching this channel. We'll have something right here, and hit that like button. Yes, very YouTube. I'm becoming very aware I'm doing this in front of Evan, but do the things, okay?